from there. And then I also posted some flexible seating pictures, and this is a first grade classroom. There are really only like maybe 4 desks in the whole room, and then these desks in here are actually stand-up desks with little treadmills. But you know, their flexible seating and a lot of choice is something that is isolated. Like they have a couple of classrooms this way, and you know, part of their redesigned thinking is, you know, how do they make all classrooms more personalized, and then, you know, within their regular classroom having some of that flexibility for students. So under the resources, there's some flex mod scheduling that they're talking about in a YouTube video. We're going to talk about the 4 disciplines of execution, but here's a quick reference for you. The other thing too is the resources column is where we will highlight new resources that we're finding, because we know that, you know, it gets really confusing when you start to have a big list of resources. We have that Google Doc. We still have the Google Doc that has the links, but then one of our colleagues from Epic Elementary in Liberty, Missouri is building us a website. So that link is there too, or just a resource Google site. So all of the resources that were on that Google Doc are organized here quite nicely by topic. We're adding to them all the time. And so that link is there for you. And like I said, we'll start pulling resources off of the bottom here when they seem a little more dated, and we'll add them to that Google site. So this shows the latest and greatest. So make sure, you know, the other thing about this too is we've sent the link to Padlet. If you can't find it, let us know, we'll resend it, but share it with your redesign teams, because this is an exciting way for your teachers to engage with other redesign team members. So yeah, share it out, and that way they feel really connected with the rest of this work too.
So Tammy, if you could scroll down maybe to the 4DX, the infographic. Absolutely. Right there.
Yep.
You know, I know many of you are probably more well versed in the 4DX process than I am, but we felt like that was a really good process to follow for the redesign project, because the 4 disciplines of execution are just, they're not steps, they're rules to follow, to go through to ensure fidelity and sustainability when you make a change, as high a level change as we're talking about with redesign. And what I like about the book is it in the very beginning, it talks about how it's light on strategy and it's heavy on execution. And I think that's an important thing to think about in education, because it gets so busy. The book talks about the whirlwind, and it's how the whirlwind just tends to dominate our daily lives in any job, maybe especially in education. But you know, a lot of times we talk about doing things, the strategy part, but then the execution gets left behind a little bit. So this book really is heavy on execution, light on strategy. And the first step is to focus on the wildly important. And so that's why we're spending quite a bit of time with you all and with our Mercury schools in having them think about their why, and then turning that why into a wildly important goal that's based on the shared vision. And then taking that wildly important goal and making it measurable, and converting the wildly important goal, like the book calls it a WIG, convert the WIG into a lag measure. And that lag measure, how that works is from X, and X is the current state of maybe your students according to the vision. An example of this, and we'll go through examples, but that's X is the current state, to Y is the desired state, by when, your timestamp. And so that's the first step, and that's where schools are right now. They've got the vision. Some are still firming up their vision, and now they're wrestling with how do we take this vision, turn it into a goal, and make it measurable. So I'll show you a couple of examples. Tammy, if you could go back to the Padlet, that resource section, and show them the one that is Kennedy's vision. So, you know, and we've used Kennedy quite a bit, but it doesn't make it any less compelling every time we talk about it. But his vision was place a man on the moon in this decade. And so that's the war wig. That's the overall war wig. And that in school districts, that's the district's vision, is that high level. And then from placing a man on the moon, there were some different sub goals, or what the book calls battle wigs, that needed to be thought through to place a man on the moon, and things like navigation. Now those aren't stated in goal form, but I'm sure they had goals stated for navigation, goals for propulsion, and goals for life support to actually put a man on the moon. And so and then the measurable part is, there's an example there in that infographic. But let's say for life support, a goal would be increase the oxygen levels from 2 times the recommended amount to 5 times the recommended amount by 6 months prior to launch, so that they would ensure and overemphasize the need for oxygen to be, to exist on the moon. And so that's a lag measure from 2 times the recommended amount to 5 times the recommended amount in 6 months, from X to Y by when. So that's just an example. And there's a couple of others. So Tammy, if we could go back, and then our state vision, that one, yeah. So in the state of Kansas, we want to lead the world in the success of each student. That's our war wig. And how we're going to do that, our battle wigs, we have five outcomes. And a lag measure for individual plans of study is from, and this is just made up, so this is not accurate data. So I don't want anybody out there thinking only 65% of our secondary schools have fully implemented IPS. It's way higher than that. But from X to Y by when. That's the lag measure for individual plans of study. Tammy, off the top of her head, probably could, but I'm not going to put her on the spot, could come up with one for kindergarten readiness. So post-secondary success, as a state, we want to move from 32% to 75% by 2025. I mean, that's our measure, that's our lag measure for post-secondary success. High school graduation, we want to move from 86% right now to 95% by 2025. Those are our lag measures. And all those things, if you have those in the front of your mind as you're doing your work, the whirlwind doesn't always overtake what we know is important. And that's one of the things in the book that 40X, it talks about, if you're going through your day and something comes up that's urgent, and then there's something that's important, which one overtakes the other? And the book talks about how the urgent always overtakes the important. And that's the part about the book that I think is most meaningful in our work in this, is that you have to carve out some time for the important, because you're going to be dealing with the urgent quite a bit. So if you go, one more example, Tammy, if we go back to how it would look, and this is just a generic look at this as a district. So kind of, and this informs our work through the redesign, but the district vision is the war wig, and then each of your school levels have battle wigs, and that's what schools right now are working on. At the elementary level, and then at the secondary level, they're working on their battle wig, and they're trying to take that and turn it into a lag measure from X to Y by when. And then the next step is then talking about lead measures, but we don't want to get into that today. So that's just a process, the 4DX process, you know, at a national level, a state level, and then down to the district level. So that was a lot. Does anybody have any questions? I know we got a couple of, we got one question in the chat. Jay and Tammy, how do we get to this website that you were showing right now? So I think that Kim Dressman, thank you, Kim, she sent out the link. And as long as you, I think the email, I think if you click on that link, you should then have access. It's not public, but it's also, you don't have to log in. You don't need any of those kinds of things to get in and use the Padlet. So
the other thing too is there's a really nice free app for your phone. And so when you download Padlet and you sync it with this, then you would have it on any device. And what's cool is when people post new things, it puts up a little number like you see when you have a new Facebook post or a new text. So yeah, the app is super handy as well.
So any questions on the 4DX, the 4 disciplines of execution, and that process? We're offering that as an option to our schools. You know, some of our schools have some really good processes they've already set up to follow, so we're kind of tweaking as we go. There's also underneath, in that resources underneath that infographic, is the playbook for redesigning schools for the 21st century. It has got a process to follow, a step-by-step. So just some resources for you all to choose from when you're talking about having a, you know, I call it a strategy, but a plan and how to redesign and bring everybody along as you go along. So any questions, either verbal or through the chat? Like I always tell in any meeting I'm in, silence is agreement. So I guess we'll just move on. But feel free to use the chat as we go along here. Tammy, I'm not sure what else we have to offer today.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked, because we wanted to give a couple of reminders. One is that we've invited each Gemini and Mercury district to an event at the annual conference in October. It's kind of a meet and greet where you can bring your redesign team and meet with the Mercury redesign teams. They're really excited to collaborate with you guys. They want to meet you all face to face and, you know, trade secrets and ideas. And so we were able to find some sponsorship. So no federal or state funding is being used for this event, but we are going to serve up some pretty awesome hot hors d'oeuvres and the opportunity for beverages of your choice. So so it's going to be super fun. It's just a couple of hours. It's on the, Jay, can you pull up that date? It's the Thursday night of the annual conference.
Yes, I believe it is October the 12th. October 12th, Thursday night. I think it's 4:30 to 6 or 4:30 to 6:30. It's the Mercury Gemini Mixer. I personally wanted it to be a dance, but that one didn't go anywhere. But
no
just an informal mixer between the Mercury and Gemini. And it's sponsored by USA, KNEA, and KSDE. So we're very happy that they were so supportive in sponsoring this event. We hope that everybody can make it. We're going to have a little bit of time where the Mercury schools can talk informally about where they are in the process, but we really hear over and over how important it is to connect everyone through this endeavor. So that's just one of the events that they're in the works this year to connect the Mercury and the Gemini schools and other schools that are interested in redesign.
Yeah, and like I said, we're super excited to get everyone together, but we're also really excited about the support and the sponsorships. But the thing is we do need you to give a soft RSVP as soon as possible to our assistant, Teresa Cody. You could just email her, how many people. Generally, we're not going to issue tickets and count heads, but we do need a count so we know how much food to order from the Hyatt, because the Hyatt serves some pretty good food and it's pretty expensive, so we wouldn't want to over order, but we also don't want to run out. So her email is tcote@ksde.org. So if you could email her and give a head count, that would be fantastic. Yeah, other than that, that's all the news we have. What else would you like? What questions do you have, or anyone who wants to stay on the line? Do take the time to go through the Padlet. There's just a ton of resources here. Share it with your redesign teams. If you're not a techie person and this stuff isn't that exciting to you to engage virtually, give it to hand it off to whoever on your staff loves. If they love Twitter and they love Facebook and they love, all of the electronic and virtual things, and hand it off to them. So.
One thing before we go is if you want to, it'd be great in the chat, or if you want to unmute and talk, what are your next steps? We know that the timeline is different for the Gemini schools, but some of you may be, lightning fast and you're already moving forward. Or you may need maybe more support from us or resources from us to move forward. So what are your next steps with redesign? And whatever they are, if we can help, what resources can we help provide? What support do you need from us that we can help you take that next step? So here's a question, and this would probably be really good for Tammy, but Kansas Star is a little confusing. Will there be any specific training how to use it in this KISA process? From Jason.
That's a good question. So you're talking about Kansas Star and KISA. Let me get with our colleagues at KSDE to see where they're at on that, because I believe that they have some training scheduled, but I am not entirely sure. I've been a little out of the loop with that. So yeah, let me, since your question is in the chat, let me look into that and I'll email that back out to you. The thing about all of this is that, whatever you do, it needs to be one plan. So, sometimes we deliver messages in ways that are confusing, but if you just remember that, somehow, some way, we've got to make one plan, we'll help you get it figured out.
And there's another question from Southwest Plains. Any experiences yet with how districts are moving to align KISA and Gemini? No, we haven't. We've been working with our Mercury schools, and and KISA accreditation has come up, but as to what, harken back to what Tammy said earlier about, they are one and the same. We don't want schools to be thinking that here they're doing parallel tracks, accreditation in one track and then redesign on the other. They are one and the same. And we talked to Brad earlier in the week about this, and he said basically it's like doing the accreditation years 1, 2, and 3, but it's if you're a Mercury school, you're basically doing years 1 and 2 at the same time through the redesign. So when we say it's accreditation on steroids, it's talking about the timeline. But that doesn't mean that they're different. They are the same. And that's the proof is in the pudding. A lot of schools are using their needs assessment results, whether it's rigor or relationships, and they're using that as their vision, to redesign. So it's those are one and the same.
There's a question here. It says, will there be some sort of template to utilize as a framework to create the final proposal for the redesign? Let me go to our Google file here and just show you the graphic, if I can move everything out of the way here. Oh, now why is it that every time I move it, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep, you're good.
Oh, why is it doing that? Okay. Why now does it want me to enter my password?
Tammy, I think I can find that.
Can you pull it up and share your screen then?
Let's see if I can.
Yeah, there is a graphic that shows all of the pieces of that comprehensive redesign plan. And what we're not going to dictate how that looks or what you submit to us. We just need to know that you've addressed all of the pieces of that.
Can you see that?
Yep. Can you zoom it a little bit? So you can see at the very center is the why and your vision. And as you work your way out, these are the things that you're going to be addressing eventually, through this, the what and the how. And then around the edge, are all of the things that you'll need to take into consideration. Now, your comprehensive redesign plan is something that starts with your vision, and your vision might be something that when you turn it into a goal, it might be so big that you're not going to get there for 4 to 5 years or whatever. That's just generally speaking. So as you're addressing all of these things, it might be that you can't launch absolutely everything by fall of 2018, because we don't want you to this isn't just a checklist. This isn't just a check, we're going to hurry up. It's got to be high quality, or it's not going to be sustainable, and all of your work and all of your effort will end up as nothing if it's just a check thing. So really, we want you to focus on the quality. We want you to take all of these things into consideration, and how you do that or how you show that is up to you. We're not, because if we provided some kind of a template, I hate to say it, but at the State Department, our templates end up being like way too long and not very usable. And so, so we think that you could probably come up with a better way to answer these questions and show that.
Yeah, and that's really good. And that why in the center, that's what schools are working on right now. The Mercury schools are working on right now. And somewhere around March, they will start putting together their plan with all the components that you see on that diagram right there. They'll start putting that plan together in the spring. Once they've tested out some different redesign principles that they feel like have value in their district and in their schools. So like Tammy said, we're not providing a template, but there's the framework for a redesign plan to be put together, and all the questions and information pieces that you need to have put together. Good question. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, well, happy Friday to everyone. If anybody wants to stay on, we're wrapping up the main part. If you want to stay on, if you have specific questions or want to stay on and chat a little bit, we'll stay on for a little while. But other than that, I hope everybody has a great Friday and a great weekend. We're really looking forward to continuing to connect with all of our schools on redesign. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. I believe our next meeting for this group of this Zoom meeting would be 2 weeks from today. Same time, same place, maybe, since it's virtual, but
same Zoom link. It's
same
the same
Zoom link. So
each time.
Yep. So thank you to everybody. If you want to stay on, that's great. Tammy and I'll stay on for a little while, but other than that, we're concluded. So everybody have a great weekend. Thank you.
TGIF.
That's right. Aaron, if you're still on, that last document is not on the Padlet, but it is in the Google folder that we share with the Gemini schools.
Let's put it on the Padlet.
We will make sure we put it on the Padlet. Thanks for the reminder. John, you can share the Padlet with anybody. Once you have the link, you can just, if you email it to your entire staff, they would then have access to it. It's kind of semi-private, I guess. You just have to have the link.
It's private. It's private in that, it's private in that when you Google it, you can't just get into it. I mean, but with Padlet, you could actually make it a public site. It's a really handy tool. Really easy to use.
Jason asked a question about RTI in Southwest Kansas and high schools. I don't know of any high schools in Southwest Kansas using RTI, but that doesn't mean that it's not going on. I'm not familiar with the RTI process. Tiered interventions are a good framework to follow that could be part of a redesign. So we know that that's an attractive model for some schools, but I'm not sure about RTI in Southwest Kansas. We also had a question from Southwest Plains, put the intentions requirements handout on the Padlet too, please. I think those are the bedrock principles that you're asking about, and they are already on the Padlet under resources. Those bedrock principles that no matter what you redesign around, what it looks like, you have to adhere to those bedrock principles.
Yeah, Max, there's some troubleshooting that you'll need to do once you get the app, in order to sync it with this link. I'll try to find a YouTube video to send to you on how to do that. It was really easy to do on my phone, but other people's different phones have different kind of nuances with that. So I'll try to do that.
And Max, if you're still on, the next meeting is October 6th. Get it on your calendar, young man. Max, you have a flip phone?
Huh, okay. We'll see what we can do.
Nice, there you go. Hey, I had trouble when I put Padlet on too. I couldn't find, Tammy created the Padlet, and then when I went to find it through the app, I couldn't find it. So maybe if you click on the link, have you already clicked on the link, like on your computer? Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm an Android guy. I can't help you. You look like an Apple guy. Max asked, what's the Kansas Redesign Project webpage? I think that's the one, Tammy, that our friend developed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's linked here, but let me see if I can pull up the. Yeah, the link is in the resources, but we could email that link out directly.
And Max, you might also be asking about the KSDE redesign page. It's more of just a marketing, so it doesn't have resources. It does have our Twitter feed on it. If you go to KSDE, go to School Redesign, but it's not really our resource page.
I can put that link in the chat here.
Oh, nice, from Elliot J. If you click on the 3 dots in the top right corner of your Padlet, Max, on the computer and click share or embed, it brings up a QR code you can scan with your phone. Man, they make it kind of hard, but
I didn't have to do it that way, but you know,
well,
better lucky than good. I just punched buttons until it worked.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone in Rolla. Have a good weekend.
Rolla. Yeah.
Rolla,
Thanks,
sorry.
Rolla.
We'll talk to you next time.
Take care.